to EarthUP, our sponsor for the month of September. EarthUP enables employers to crowdsource corporate emissions reductions from their employees. This bottom-up approach reduces costs for sustainability teams while de-risking a company's emissions reduction strategy.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to ESG Decoded. This is one of your co-hosts, Amanda Hsieh, and today I have with me Stephen Bay, the founder of EarthUp. Stephen, hi, how are you doing?
Doing great, Amanda. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to be talking with you and to learn more about your company, EarthUp, and how you're helping companies engage their employees on sustainability, at the same time helping their companies and also employees reduce their overall footprint as well. So tell me a little bit about, how you got started and a little bit about EarthUp as well.
Okay, perfect. Well, my journey in the, sustainability space started almost 12, 14 years ago now. And it really, I used to be in the sports world, and I graduated college in a really great time, 2008, when the economy crashed, and I went and worked as head of product for a sports startup down in Los Angeles. And when that crash happened, I was like, I need to get out of here. I want to go travel. So I went and lived in Southern Africa for a while. I went and lived in Ukraine for a while. And I met a scientist from an oil rig. And he kept talking about how the internal combustion engine's going away, how all energy is going to be right now is using a lot of fossil fuels. It's going to migrate away from that all in the next 10, 20 years. And if he was my age, that's what he would be getting into. And so I started on my travels, I started looking at how different countries consumed energy. And I was like, when I get home back to the United States, I'm going to start a company doing this. And so got home, worked as a digital media engineer as I kind of tried to figure out and navigate how to start a company. And at that time, there was a lot of government funds to go do education and learn about these things. And so I actually got federal government to fund me going and getting my Building Performance Institute certification, started a company with a local utility doing home energy assessments and educating residents in our area about how to reduce their energy consumption, which in turn reduced emissions. And we did over 30,000 in-person home energy assessments. We built that to 17 employees, and we reduced hundreds of thousands of metric tons of CO2 emissions from that and saved residents over $1 million a year. And while we were doing that, we started to expand into kind of how do we help companies reduce their scope 1 and 2 emissions. So through building retrofits. And then when we were working with one of those companies, we started asking what some of the big problems they were trying to solve. And this was Skanska. Skanska is a big builder. And one of the things they were trying to solve is how do they get their employees engaged in their mission? And so we did a little pilot for them, had the best engagement that they had ever had. And we're like, oh, there might be something here. And then right around that same time, Larry Fink launched this letter in 2018 talking about how one of their main focuses for their investments now is going to be climate impact and how companies are reducing their climate impact. So we did a bunch of different research projects on what are the most sustainable companies doing, how do they reach that level of sustainability, what are other companies not doing that they should be doing, and it really all focused around getting employees engaged. If you look at the most sustainable companies in the world, they found a way to actually turn every job into a climate job, right? How does every single aspect of their business, all surfaces, it's the best way to say it, every aspect of their business can only be touched by all their employees. And so when they get their employees to believe in the mission, their employees work harder, their employees innovate, their employees come up with ideas. And that's really when we decided, hey, EarthUp is what we want to do. EarthUp's how we want to move forward. And that's when we went all in. And that was about 2020 after we did a bunch of research. So
That's awesome. So tell everyone more about EarthUp.
EarthUp is a software platform that allows companies to understand their employees' footprints outside of the office, specifically their work from home and commute footprints. We are the best in class. We get the best data on what the emissions are from your employees working from home. But the reason we start there is because that's how you get employees engaged. That's what's most personal to them. Over a third of the workforce is now working from home. So it's a big source of emissions for a lot of these companies. But what we're doing now is we're starting to expand into scope 1, scope 2. How can you actually get employees to engage? And how can you track and tangibly reduce emissions? Everything on EarthUp, the goal isn't to be fluffy or greenwashy. It's to make sure that we can reduce kilowatt hours of energy, therms of energy, gallons of gasoline, and actually track the emissions reduction. And it starts with some engagement and education. What we kind of say is you got to inspire, and you got to educate, and then you got to activate. And that's really the process that our platform takes employees through. And as an employer, you get a lot of visibility into how do you activate your employees? What are they interested in? And so that's what we're doing at EarthUp.
And at ClimeCo, we are using EarthUp as well to engage our employees and help them as well as you said, kind of educate, even though we're a sustainability company. I think there's always something more to learn about sustainability. So I know people have been excited about kind of learning more. We love the challenges so we can, try things out as well. And I think, like as you mentioned, it's just a fun employee engagement tool that we're excited to be using as well. And I think your point about working from home is so relevant right now. And I know some companies are trying partially going back to the office, partially working from home. It's all in flux. And I think almost everything I read about the future of work indicates it will be some kind of a hybrid model, kind of a flexible model. So this work from home is not going away, even if it may be, a little bit modified. So I think it is so important that there's a way that we can engage employees and also track as well, so that we can be as accurate as possible when we're trying to calculate those footprints, the corporate footprints.
And it's amazing to see a lot of companies with the amount of specifically technology companies with the amount of employees working from home. It can be more than their scope 1 emissions. Right, their employees working from home can be more than scope 1, scope 2. And so companies really need, I agree, like it's going to be a hybrid model. Companies really need to figure out how do they start, just like they invested in healthy, productive buildings when people were coming to an office, how do they do the same thing for their employees working from home? And when you reduce the emissions, you're making the buildings more efficient, you're making the buildings more healthy, employees are more productive and more comfortable in those buildings. And very few companies actually have a strategy on how to do that, even though they know moving forward that their employees are going to be, vast majority of their employees are going to be working home at least one day a week. Right, so it's I completely agree, it's not going away. it's I think you're going to kind of see it bounce back and forth a little bit, where companies will like try to make stringent policies. We'll see how employees, how employees actually interact with that and say, yeah, okay, I'll come in 5 days a week. But I think when you're looking at the workforce that's 30, 35 or older, it's going to be hard to get good skilled workers to work for you if you demand that they come in 5 days a week. So these companies really need to have a focus on not just the efficiency of those offices, the productivity of those offices, but the emissions, right? What's the difference? How are companies looking at, if I have employees come to the office, what's the difference in emissions from them staying home, right? And as you look at these BlackRocks, these Vanguards that are really investing in companies that have a strategy to get to net zero, this has to be part of that strategy, right? And so that's a problem that we're solving initially, and then expanding. Once you have the employees engaged, you can really alter the emissions from so your supply chain, from your contractors, from your buildings. Employees are the key to reducing corporate emissions and laying the foundation to reaching net zero, which most of these companies are going to have to do in the next 20 or 30 years.
The other thing that we've enjoyed with using EarthUp is that, of course, there's a lot about connected with greenhouse gas emissions, but there's also you can learn about and take challenges and get involved with other aspects of sustainability as well, such as waste reduction. Understanding kind of what's happening with plastics and single-use plastics and kind of plastic pollutions. So there's so many ways to, I think, engage employees that if I like it, because if someone's not, I don't know, maybe energy efficiency is not their jam, but you know what? They are really into plastic pollution and really want to understand how they can help address that crisis as an individual or even as a company. So I love that as well.
And we have some great partners. Our goal is to kind of sit between sustainability departments, HR departments, and then their employees. And so our goal is not to be the solution, it's to connect people with the right solution, right? And so, like you said, there's so much out there. I recently, in the last couple of years, learned that 40% of the food that we create in the world is wasted. And the amount of emissions that's generated from the farmland to create that food, to transporting that food, to refrigerating that food, all that whole process to when the food is wasted, it going into landfills, just how much emissions come from that. And so we did a World Wildlife Fund partnered with us to do some education pieces on that. So we're really excited because the more and more partners we talk to, the more and more excited they get about being able to talk with employees of these big companies. We have some massive customers too. And it's also good to see that these companies are serious about activating their employees, because their employees are going to hold them accountable. We've seen what happened with Amazon. And companies now need to embrace that. And a lot of our customers are embracing that, where they're saying, hey, look, we want our employees to say, we don't want pensions invested in, factories that are burning coal to make there's so many different levels of this. And that's really what we're just trying to make it. We're trying to simplify it, make it easy for individuals to take steps, but also make it easy for individuals to understand how they can actually make bigger impact on their company and drive their company to reach net zero.
It's very cool. I want to understand a little bit more about the kind of partners you mentioned, you hinted at, because I could see so many opportunities with that, with the user base, and again, making it easy for EarthUp users to connect and find solutions. And tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we have educational partnerships. Like I said, World Wildlife Fund is one that they
Mhm.
came in and really helped talk about food waste. I'm based out of Seattle, so we have a lot of wildfires. Last year didn't have any. This year it's actually been raining nonstop, so I don't think we'll have a ton this year, which is a great thing, except for the rain nonstop. So we partnered with local people that talk about how do you mitigate these fires? What can you do? We partner with different air quality companies to talk about that as well, because a lot of the things that employers are trying to educate their employees about it are these issues. We also partner with companies that help reduce plastics, help reduce chemicals in the water. And so, we have a partnership with Drops, which is a great way to reduce huge plastic containers that come with your laundry detergent or what you do in the kitchen. And the goal here is to really show individuals that you don't need to make a sacrifice to live sustainably, right? It's
Mm.
about when you actually start making these sustainable changes, you realize it's improving your life, right? You're healthier, it's cheaper in a lot of situations, and it's better for your family, and it saves you money. And so there's all these different things that go along with it. And so these partnerships, we're really trying to learn about individuals and how to drive behavior change, and when to introduce the right partner. When does somebody want to hear about plastics versus emissions? What's the right partner to introduce? And then we also have partnerships to go out there and actually do in-person events, right? One of the things that we're trying to blend here is software, but we're launching something in the coming months where employees that are already on the platform can talk to other employees that are new to the platform on how they use the platform, how they do it. We can do in-person events to go pick up plastic waste, get people involved in planting trees, right? So that's something that we're working on, how to create those partnerships as well. And then our partnership with ClimeCo too has been great. You guys are amazing. The different projects you guys do from an offset perspective. We partner with you guys to educate people on offsets and on plastic credits. So and like you said, partners are really interested in being able to talk to employees. And so it's exciting. It's really exciting.
It's really cool. If If I'm at a company, let's say I'm in HR or something, how do I know that I'm ready for EarthUp, that my employees are ready for it, that they would be interested in it? Like, what are some classic signals or signs that I would know that my company's ready for this, to take this step?
Your employees will be asking you, what
Okay.
can I do? Right? I mean, when your employees are asking you, what can I do? And you don't have an answer for them, right? You should
Mm-hmm.
be like, maybe we should have an answer for people that want to actually help us, right? Almost every single one of our customers, their employees are coming and saying, what can I do to reduce my own emissions? What can I do to help the company reduce the emissions? And if you don't seize that opportunity, it's a detriment to your company, right?
Yeah.
And board level rooms are asking for this. So if you're a publicly traded company and your employees are asking, and you guys don't have a solution for them, you need to solve that, right? You need to be able to say, hey, this is what you can do, and this is how you get started. And then your employees are more productive, they're more passionate about your company's mission. And that's what, if you look at all the stats, that's what employees want, right? Employees want to feel a purpose in the company that they spend 40, 50, 60 hours a week working for. So I would say, if you're trying to figure out where to start and you're like, I don't have a lot of capacity, a lot of sustainability departments are part-time roles for people, right? So somebody will be in HR and then they're also helping with sustainability, or they'll be in operations and they're also helping with sustainability. And what we do is we build capacity for those people. We know that there's a lot of people like that, but so when they're looking to create partnerships and those things, instead of having to go create all these partnerships, they can come to us. So another one is, if people are struggling to create partnerships and it takes them 5 months to create a single partnership, they can sign on to EarthUp and have connections with 15 partners instantly, right? But I would say it really is focused around, if employees are asking for it and you don't have an answer for them, right? You should start looking at how do you get them involved. And we're the best solution for really monitoring their work from home, the best in class. And so another one is, if you have, 25, 30% of your workforce outside of the office for multiple days a week, that's another time you're like, we need to start understanding this, and how can we leverage this to get people to activate employees.
I think you just answered one of the questions that was in the back of my head is, what if there is already a kind of an internal sustainability committee? But what I'm hearing is that this can really augment that committee and really help them, get to their goals and kind of expand their capacity and be that easy link. That like you said, most of the times it's not your full-time job. It's something that you do spend an hour a week on or something like that.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
we help green team. We help accelerate green teams. We help make it easier. A lot of green teams are doing manual processes where they're submitting forms, and you see companies, their green teams start to decrease in the number of employees that are a part of those green teams, right? Because it's such an effort to be a part of those
Yeah.
green teams. And so we make it effortless to be a part of the green teams. We make it fun to be a part of the green teams. And we try to always introduce interesting content. We have a video on our platform where the average person in the world eats about 5 grams of plastic per week in microplastics. And it's in our water, it's in pretty much everything, right? They even found microplastics in polar bears, which is just crazy. So, to make it kind of interesting and fun, we have a professional chef cooking credit cards on the platform, right? It's a 2-minute video. You can go watch a chef cooking a credit card, and so we try to make it fun, and then they can share that content out. So
Yeah.
green teams don't have to create all the content. There's weekly challenges our goal is to make it easier for those green teams and people that are spending a few hours a week being the sustainability leader for their company.
Tell me a little bit, and I know we only have a few minutes left, but what do you think the future is with all this? Like, I guess it depends on each company, maybe what their sustainability goals are.
Yeah, so every company is going to need, if they want investment. So every company that's looking for investments or looking to retain employees or really looking to be, in demand from consumers, they have to have climate part of their strategy. Climate reduction has to be part of their strategy. Now, the early adopters, we're even moving out of the early adopters at this phase. I think there's 3,000 companies in the world. Maybe it's a little less have made carbon commitments. Maybe it's a little bit more. And a lot of those are the biggest companies in the world have made those commitments. And so every company needs a strategy, and it starts with the publicly traded companies because they're the ones that are feeling the most pressure from their boards and the investment corporations that are steering their boards, right, and educating their boards on what to care about. And so that's really where I see it going. I'm actually extremely optimistic and excited about the future. I see us moving away from focusing on quarterly profits as a way to drive shareholder value, which is a huge lever that needs to change for companies to really be focused on sustainability. And I see a lot of employees moving and working for companies that have a purpose in driving that. And so with those two levers, and when you have investment corporations like BlackRock and Vanguard and PEMCO saying, this is the direction that our investment's going. BlackRock just released something that one of their 3 investment theses is companies reaching net zero. What's your strategy to reach net zero? And that's one of their top 3. And one of the other ones is identifying how climate's going to impact their supply chains and how they do business, right? So this is such an important thing for these big investors that it has to be important for the boards that are protecting shareholder value, which it's important for the CEOs and the executives, and it's important for the employees. So you're starting to see top down and bottom up kind of meet. And that's exactly what we're trying to do with EarthUp. There's pressure from top down, there's pressure from bottom up. How do we harness those together to accelerate that adoption? And what we see for EarthUp is we see us being able to cover all emission categories and tracking all emission categories, but we're starting with what we think is the number one lever that companies need to get involved, and that's their employees. And once you do that, it's going to be a lot easier not to just measure, but also reduce emissions across your supply chain, across where you're delivering your products to, across your buildings, across employees' homes now, which is an important piece of it too. So that's kind of where we see the industry going, and it's also where we see EarthUp going.
Awesome. Stephen, thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your journey and also about EarthUp. I think if listeners are interested in learning more, they can go to the website, which is earthup.eco, but we'll also link it in the show notes just to make it easy for everyone as well. Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks, Amanda. It was great talking with you.
Thanks again to our sponsor, EarthUp, whose mission is to make sustainability a part of everyone's job so companies can meet their emissions goals. Visit them at earthup.eco.